Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you once again for joining us on the buy side, where we talk about all things acquisitions. And who better than to talk to about this topic than the one and only Mr. Pandemic Positivity, Mr. Buy Center, Mr. David Long. Man, I'm excited to talk to you.
Mr. All Things, really. That's
All
really what he
things
is. He's
used
Mr.
cars.
All Things. He is the OG of the words all things. It all stems from him. All things.
I've never
OG
met.
is pretty accurate, meaning old guy. I love it.
Yeah,
Good to be here with you guys.
I think
Well,
we're all
man,
a little. I think
and
we're all a little OG. I feel a little OG
I'm a
sometimes.
little OG, but not in the traditional car business sense. I've just been cutting my teeth out here. But from the minute I got outside of the walls of CarMax and off lease only, working, really for large scale corporate operations, and got into the more traditional side, I can't think of two guys that have been more welcoming and just learning from these two guys in the industry than Todd Caputo, David Long, and two guys that are just, I mean, when you talk about just ultra giving and giving back to the industry that they love, taking on speaking engagements and not charging. David's got all things used cars. I think even on that's up to 1,000 followers on LinkedIn now and growing. And every week people are logging in to hear little morsels, little nuggets of wisdom every single week. And I log in, and David's been um, absolutely welcoming to me and my ideas on his show. And so today we get to interview David and learn a few things. But before we even dive into the buy side of things, I want to talk about David and the personal side of things a little bit, because yesterday was a big day for you, correct?
It was, Frank. It was a really big day after 42 years. Yeah.
42 years and going into retirement. But we know, if anything's true, David, is not really retiring. He
I
may
don't
not
think
be in
that.
a
I don't
dealership,
think.
but
Yeah, I
he's
don't
going to
think
be
most
out
people.
there doing a lot of things with a lot of people. I am 100% certain of that. So, what tell us a little bit about that. Like, what prompted that? I know I've been on all things used cars. I'm usually on every Friday. Maybe miss an episode here or there, but I had heard rumblings about retirement, and it was coming in a couple years. But every time I look at David, he looks like a young dude. He's out there playing basketball. He's tearing Achilles and getting them
Scott, did you get
repaired.
that six pack yet? Weren't you shooting for like a six pack or something in
I'm
26? You
getting
get the six
close.
pack yet?
Believe it or not, getting
Uh,
close. I've got 3 months till I'm 60. No, 2 months.
2 months till he's 60. Let me tell you, I saw an old photo of you, David, and I know we're not on the buy side yet because we're still talking personal. But I saw a photo of you, and dude, it was a young photo, and you were just jacked. Man,
Frank, I was like you, man. I was
freaking
260 and
stud.
shredded and benching 405 pounds for reps and squatting over 5 and just trying to keep up with you back then.
that was an awesome photo that I saw. But tell us a little bit, like what prompted the idea of retirement, man? Because it just feels like you're in your stride. You got all these things moving, and you decided to take some time, to pull back and spend more time with the family, and get to work from home. What prompted that?
Frank, I had a clear epiphany, actually. So my father, for years, used to say, we lived in Ohio and I grew up in Michigan. He said, David, you're going to miss me because when I retire, I'm moving to Florida. And he said that for years. And he passed away 30 days before he retired.
Oh,
Mm.
wow.
I heard myself, and it was like a lightning bolt moment. When I retire, I'm going to, and I thought I could hear my dad in my voice. And I thought to myself, I am not going to wait 2 more years like I had originally planned. And, worked with the Hansels, which was my best automotive experience in 42 years. And we worked on a little bit of a succession plan over the past 6-8 weeks. and then I transitioned yesterday into my retirement phase. My retirement's going to be like nobody else's. But if I can't do it, so you see I have a collar on, but on the bottom half, I got my boxer shorts. And if I can't do it in my boxer shorts, I'm not saying yes. So I'm going to be home. We're building a home in Idaho, and that's going to be where I spend just around my family.
Dude, that is just awesome. So it's kind of like Kevin O'Leary, right? Like you business up top and pajama pants at the bottom, right?
Party on the bottom, baby. Let's go.
in a beautiful place too. I was out in Montana a couple of weeks ago with my buddy Evan, and like that part of the country is just it's gorgeous. I mean, it really is beautiful to see the open spaces and the mountains and the people, especially in some of those more rural places. It's gorgeous. So, David, I'm really happy for you. I got to tell you, like to hear you say that and put that perspective on. Um, I can tell you that you're probably gonna. It's a little weird when all of a sudden you just like slow down a little bit. Like, I can tell you at least from my perspective, when I got out of the day to day in the car business, like actually in the stores, and then working for Sonic again, it was kind of go go go. But when I decided to, I wouldn't say I'm definitely not retired, but I'm sure you're probably going to be doing some sort of consulting, right? Like that's we'll get into that.
Again, I have 2 agreements that I've penciled, but if I couldn't do them in my boxers, I wouldn't be doing them. So I'm going to be the COO of Van, the vice president of operations for Schumacher Chevrolet in New Jersey. There's 8 rooftops, 5 stores, 3 collision centers in my boxer shorts. And I'm going to be David J. Long Consulting, which I have 20.
Oh, so you're not retired. What are you all right. This word retirement is now out of this conversation completely.
Yeah, it's not a lot, Todd. It's sitting here with my family around me, not going anywhere really, other than NADA next week, and just hanging out.
Well, we're going to talk about that then too.
Yeah, let's call it.
Wait a minute, David. Are you going to be in your boxers walking around the conference in your boxers in NADA, or you're going to put some pants on?
No, probably in my boxers. Yeah.
Perfect.
I love it.
All right,
I love it.
All right, so we're not talking about retirement anymore. We're just talking about
transition.
We're transition from reprioritizing, not in a dealership every single day, with 10,000 people coming at you all the time with questions, and that's very, very helpful. Congratulations. Good for you. I think that's awesome.
And I'm not doing it for 75 hours a week either. So for me, that's retirement.
Yeah. And so what you're talking about is redefining. So I think, and that's what we're going to find as this generation gets older, we're just redefining what retirement looks like more than anything. And it's really an active retirement, because David, if knowing you over the last couple of years, you're an A-type personality, and it's competition and it's go go go, and I love it because it mirrors everything that that I've known successful individuals to be. So man, to hear you're going to move on and be in those roles is absolutely awesome. When you think about just your journey, right? So you weren't always, I mean, you're David J. Long, but you had some bumps in the road, I'm sure. And it's interesting because what people see now is David Long, and they automatically all things used cars and Hansel and Mr. Buy Center. But it wasn't always that way, right? Like how did you get to this point? Because I know during the pandemic, you got to a place where you said, you know what, pandemic of positivity. How did that start?
I was in my backyard here, and I was just thinking, there's so much death and destruction, so much sadness and heaviness. How do I pour some positivity in the world through kindness, love, and compassion? And it just, another one of those things. I reached out to a couple of wonderful people like you guys, and they're like, yeah, let's put some energy into positivity. And then it took a life of its own, and here we are.
Yeah.
Biblical, gentlemen. It's biblical, right? All those words you just used sound very biblical to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. They weren't invented by me for sure, and they come from my faith. And I just knew people were starving for more than what we were giving them. And that's where that was birthed.
So let's dive in, because you're over 100 buy centers now. And let's talk about that. Like, where did that idea of, hey, look, I've got to, it's one thing to set up a buy center in your own location, right? And know that, hey, this is my dealership. I need to acquire more used cars. I'm going to go and set up a buy center for my location, and I'm going to keep all that information to myself and make my group ultra successful. But at some point you decided, you know what, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to help other people learn this and do what I know to be successful. What prompted that? Because again, it goes back to that sharing of ideas and, wanting an industry that's better. So how did you get there?
I certainly didn't set out 13 years ago to start spreading the gospel of opening buy centers. But when I opened the first one, and we went to 200 cars, like automatically, through a lot of pain and hard work, automatically, that kind of automatic. So the European Dealer Association asked me to come over to Paris and share those concepts. And then a big dealer group in Brazil asked me to come over. And as I'm flying around the world, I thought, man, there's a real need to open up a brand new business and acquire vehicles from private party. And that was 13 years ago. Now it's in 2 languages. It's got an LMS, it's got a playbook and videos. And so I just know that buying cars at auction isn't the best strategy. And I know you guys have some great strategies to make that happen in a positive way. I was not good enough to be the guy to buy cars at auction. So I had to find another way.
Yeah, no, it's a great segue, because when you think about it, one of my things, and you've heard me say it, and I continue to say it, is that there are no bad channels. There's just bad strategy, right? And if I can go to an auction and only have to buy 2 cars rather than 20 cars, right, then, I probably have the right strategy around, hey, look, I'm walking away from a ton of cars because I'm only going to cherry pick the ones that I can actually be successful in. And I'm going to go elsewhere to the other channels to get those cars. And, look, we know the most successful channel out there is private party acquisitions. We know that to be true. But, in your, David, coming from you.
Dave, Frank, I want to add something, though, to this conversation, right? Like, the most successful dealers that I know, buying cars is as much of the DNA of their business as it is selling cars. And I think it's super, super important. And a buy center is just, I think, a strand of that DNA, right? If you look at the different strands of acquisition, if we want to talk about it that way, very, very few dealers, though, are really successful at buying, right? Like, there's the term always be closing. In my opinion, you have to always be buying as well. It has to be part of your DNA and part of your culture, right? And, setting up a buy center is not something that tons of dealers ultimately end up being successful at. And if they choose to, I can tell you right now that if I still was in business and I was going to set one up, I probably could. I don't think I probably could do it, but I would hire a professional like David to actually set it up. When I set up centralized BDC, I probably could have figured it out my own and done it on my own, but I hired a professional to do it. And I would tell anybody out there, and this is not we're not pitching anybody here. Right? This is a conversation, but if you think you want to do something, if you're a dealer or an executive manager and you have the ability to make those big decisions for your business, I would hire an expert, right? Because hiring an expert allows you to really get it done properly, get it done right. The fact that you have like a learning management system to go along with the buy center, because once you leave, you got to have, there's got to be playbooks and there's got to be process, and that's what has to be left in place. So I think that like if you're considering a buy center and you want to go all in, I wouldn't wing it. Right. I mean, David, you agree with what I'm saying? Like, I would not wing it.
Yeah. Well, I sure gave it a shot by winging it. Right. And it was painful and expensive. So the pain that I suffered and the expense that I paid, other people don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. I did it for you.
Yeah. Look, and coming from my background in CarMax and going around and, working in several stores and building out the purchasing department. And than building buy centers for for off lease only. One of the things that I found, it's extremely expensive, and it's expensive because not just the people that you hire that might have been the mistake, but the cars that you might buy that also that's where it really hurts you, whether you paid too much or you didn't have the process when you took the car in to inspect it, and now the car gets kicked to wholesale and you're losing thousands. But David, Todd brings up a good point. Like, I wouldn't wing this because you've done it. How you're what, 102 now? 102 buy centers.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen this over and over again. And there's some obviously that are ultra successful,
Mm-hmm.
some that are middle of the road, and some that just aren't really doing a good job, even though they have the playbook, right?
Mm-hmm.
From your vantage point, what are the things that break down inside of most buy centers that cause them to not be successful?
It comes down to two or three things: resistance and excuses, right? And generally, what I've noticed on the buy centers that don't ever win, I mean ever, not the ones that I've worked with, is they try to take 5-car Fred and they try to take their thinking and process strategy from sales to buy center, and then they wonder why, and they don't align the whole store. So 5-car Fred gets on the phone, he talks to somebody, they say, well, what's my car worth? He walks over to the desk and he stands there, and the sales manager says, get him in. Or, how am I going to give you a number? I don't even know anything about it. I've never even seen the car, right? So there's no alignment. There's a bunch of excuses, and then the resistance is too much for the store. And next thing you know, it's closed.
So it's funny you said 5-car Fred. So one of the things I remember when we were at CarMax and we decided that we would go down. Well, we decided at one point at CarMax that we would have what were just they weren't necessarily sales consultants anymore, but they were some of the sales consultants that weren't as successful, and we grabbed them and we put them in this role of, hey, they're just going to buy cars. They're just going to stand at the door all day long and greet customers and take customers and try to buy cars. Funny thing happened is that those same people were not very successful at buying cars most of the time. So when you think about the people piece, like, what kind of people are we talking about? Are we talking about, technicians that we need to have as buy people? Are we talking, hey, go grab, your local Walmart greeter and you can make him, like, what kind of people do you find to be like the most successful in terms of just their competencies or their attributes?
That is a great question. And I
got my answer, but I'm waiting to hear yours first.
I've been trying to figure that out for 13 years, and it's becoming clearer and clearer and clearer. But back to the car, Max, those leads were coming in saying, I want to sell my car.
That's right.
My strategy, nobody comes in and says they want to sell their car to a dealer. As a matter of fact, if they wanted to sell it to a dealer, they would drive it into any lot that they saw that says we buy cars, and they'd sell it to a dealer. These are people that on purpose, by design, with intention, have decided not to sell to a dealer. And I've got guys and gals out there that have the right makeup and have the right process discipline to buy 50 cars a month. Think about, let's say you only made $3,000 a car. Only 3 times 50. It's a pretty good return on time and investment. So here's the kind of person. It's not the salesperson that tries to convert. And I've never had anybody succeed that way. It is the person that has no preconceived ideas and no scotomas or paradigms that prevent them from being able to do something that a salesperson or a used car manager can't find their way to do. Let me just repeat it the way that maybe makes more sense. A sales manager, a used car manager, and a past salesperson have so many preconceived ideas and paradigms that they can't make. It's like taking a pickle and trying to turn it back into a cucumber. It's damn near it is impossible. So it's the person from Starbucks. You walk in, hi, welcome. I'll give you a perfect example. This young lady, I was at Starbucks 3 times in 3 months. I walked in, she said, welcome back, David. And I was like, oh, would you like that same order you had? And I'm thinking, this human being's only seen me 3 times. Big energy, really gregarious. that is the person that I'm looking for. And those are the people we hire.
Okay.
Those people are rare, but they're
No
out
doubt.
there. I think too, and I always share this with the dealers that I work with. It has to be people that aren't afraid of the word no and afraid of the word rejection, because the take rate is not great in a lot of cases when you're making so many offers to people for their car. You talk about buying cars out of the service drive. Like, there's a great example, right? Like, you're going to make an offer on every single car that comes into your store or the service drive. How many yeses you're going to get versus how many nos. Take the amount of ROs times, I don't know, 5, 8, 10%. So those people need to be able to understand that there's going to be no a lot and be able to actually handle that. Some people are not good with rejection. They're just not. The closing ratio typically when you're selling a car is a lot higher than the closing ratio when you're actually buying. And it takes a certain disposition, in my opinion, of people that can actually handle the word no and just keep on swinging and don't give up. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not, but that's from my perspective, based on what I see, like, I think that is important to consider.
Yeah, no, I think, absolutely a valid point, but I want to rewind. Like, David, you said 50 cars, right? And if you're making $3,000 on those 50 cars, right, you're $150,000 ROI on, whatever salary you're paying, whatever fees, you're paying for consulting and whatever processes you have stood up. I got to imagine that there's not a dealer that's listening to this that wouldn't say, yeah, you know what? Give me an extra $125,000 to my bottom line, right? Like, I'm taking out the expenses and saying, if I'm spending 25 grand, I'm netting $125,000 more than I would have. And
more. But so it's more. So if you're making $3,000 on the sale of the car, how much are you making in parts and service?
Yeah.
Right.
And what is your trade capture percentage on a car you would have found nowhere else from somebody you wouldn't have met otherwise? Think about that.
And I'm going to do you one better, David, to add onto that, because where I was going to go is, what about all the cars that, if you're replacing 50 cars that you would have went to auction to buy, right? And those cars, let's say half of those cars lose money on you, right? Like my delta is even greater than I ever would have thought it was.
Plus trades.
It's remarkable. Yeah, that's the trade capture.
Plus you got trades,
revenue,
F&I. Another thing too, right, David? I'd love to hear your opinion on this. There are other expenses, and I think one of them is marketing, right? Like, if you're going to be in the business of buying cars, you need to spend some money letting people know that you actually do buy cars, whether it's a standalone location or if it's a buy center you open up in your store. Dealers need to know. Dealers need to know that they have to spend money. It's not just like all of a sudden we buy cars now, and you don't have to spend any extra money to let people know that you do it. Through multiple ways. David, what's your opinion on that? Do you agree with me?
I really love and respect everything you do, but I couldn't disagree more.
Really? Okay. I'd love to hear why.
Yeah. And with all due respect, I think it's the worst thing in the world to open.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I
want
to hear this.
No money spent. As a matter of fact, I think it's foolish to open a brand new business in a margin compressed business and add more layers of expense. So my strategy is the antithesis of that.
Okay.
Give the person a phone and a Craigslist posting and go to and learn the process and go to work. With only expense that somebody should experience is the expense of training that person. That's it.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
Now, so think about it. So we're going to open a buy center and we're going to drive traffic into a non-developed process. That hurts the reputation and brand of the company more than anything, in my opinion. So what my strategy is zero expense, zero. I want it to be the biggest kept secret other than personal one-to-one contact in the industry until it is fully developed and it's perfected. Now, once it's developed and the thing's doing $150,000 a month in gross, maybe we layer in some KBB expense, and then maybe we layer in a little OTT, or maybe we do a little Facebook marketing campaign for $800. But nowhere in my world should somebody go out and blast the radio or TV or any other expense as it relates to driving traffic.
Interesting.
Wow.
So these stores that are buying 30 to 50 cars a person, they're not spending any ad campaign to do that.
That's interesting. I would have thought the opposite. I think we got to talk a little bit more about that when I see an NADA, but we'll leave it for that. I could see spending money to, whether you're using Van or something else, or you're just diving into Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and finding cars that are for sale. And I'm assuming that's what these people do.
It's the equivalent of handing somebody a white pages and teaching them how to really, really hunt for themselves. And it is not easy.
So it's like back in the day when I first learned how to sell cars when I was a kid. You grab almost like I learned you grab the phone book in some cases.
That's
If
what
you
I'm
had
saying,
no
white
if
page.
you had no leads to work, you were grabbing the phone book and just calling names.
That's all it is. Except these people are warm leads because they're selling their car.
Yeah.
So the process that we use isn't, hi, I'm calling from ABC Motors to give you an offer on your car. That's like, so here's where it all came from. So when I was with AutoNation for many years, you would be considered a crisis dealer, which really just meant you were about to be fired if you didn't have a particular net to gross. So for the amount of gross you generated, if you didn't keep, at that point, it was 33 cents on the dollar. Like you had to have a 33.33% net to gross to be held like to a stand. That was the standard we were holding everybody to. If you were in the 5, 10, 15% net to gross, like you were a crisis dealer and you were losing your job. So the last thing I would ever want to do is say to a dealer, okay, you're already margin compressed. You're already seeing different net profits than you did. Now we're going to open a brand new business and have you pour a bunch of resources into it. I don't know too many GMs, especially if they're paid on net, that are going to say yes to that.
Makes sense.
That's interesting. That's really interesting, because if you look at what CarMax and Carvana have spent to build their brand, if the words "sell my car" come into their head for whatever reason, they need to sell their car, they're going to shop Carvana and they're going to shop CarMax in a lot of cases, I would think, because of the fact that those companies, again, these are big publicly traded companies that have access to all kinds of capital that a lot of private dealers don't. But the public is accustomed to knowing that that's who I maybe consider selling my car to.
Amen.
In a very
that's
simple
the reason
and
we
easy
don't
way.
advertise. You just explained exactly why advertising is a ridiculous approach to buy center, because it's a drop of water in an ocean. I'm not going to ever make the noise or grab the attention that a CarMax or a Carvana. It's not even the same industry in my mind. So when I hear people compare a buy center to a CarMax, inside I like, that's like me fighting Mike Tyson. Come on. I'm not even getting in that ring. Why would I want to get in that ring and run around circles and hope that he doesn't land a punch? I am not in that business. I'm in my own lane and I stay there quietly and I buy 30 cars a person on average, and 30 cars a person times $3,000 plus part service is $1 million a year in additional company gross without additional expense. Who doesn't want that? So here's what a good job looks like: $83,333 a month in sales gross plus parts and service and trade acquisition, trade on the trade. That's what a good job looks like as a buy center agent.
Got it.
Do you track all that, David? When you set this up for a dealer, do you have a tracking mechanism?
Oh,
So are you tracking the front end gross, the back end gross, the trade capture?
Here's what the log
all this
looks like.
Additional gross. So does a dealer get that data? So
I'm going to blow through
ROI?
it real quick. So it'll be the date, so you can see how many hat tricks and 5-car days you have. It'll be the date on the log, and then it'll be the person that bought the car, the person that assisted on the appraisal, the year, make, model, miles, and then it'll have estimated reconditioning, actual reconditioning, delta. It'll have DTS, which stands for days to sale. It'll have front gross, back gross, total gross, and it'll have one more thing that I'm forgetting off the top of my head. But at the end,
got shop gross in there or no?
Well, shop gross would be estimated versus actual.
Okay.
Because if you're working with me and you set up your reconditioning the right way, there is no discount. It's another reason why we don't compete with CarMax or Carvana. If you're paying 100% retail on reconditioning, it's a different business model.
Yeah, it is a different. I agree.
Sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So anyway, so that's the log. So imagine this: every car that's bought in the month of January, we close the books in March. Meaning days to sale and the expiration date on the car you buy, that car needs to be released by the end of March. Right? In order for your portfolio of purchases to have performed the way we've agreed that it would perform, you do not have any January cars left going into April.
Is that manual entry, David? Like, do you have integration into
Not
VMS?
everywhere. Not
Okay.
everywhere. There's some places that have been able to set it up where it just auto populates.
Okay.
But having said that, a receptionist with a very clear access can do that, or
Can pull it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So every time a car is purchased, the buyer's responsibility, just like you tag a car, you stock a car, put your keys in, put it in the back, you fill out your log. Now you're done.
So David, I obviously, I wear a couple different hats, and at one point I was tinkering around and helping dealers build buy centers before joining Auto Acquire. And the one thing I hear, you hear 102 buy centers, and that's a large number. But then you think about the industry and how many dealerships are out there, and how many dealerships actually need buy centers. Why do you think so many dealers talk about
hard, Frank?
Like, why do they talk about it, but they don't go? They don't embrace this system.
Well, let me ask you something. We've been doing this how long have you been doing it, Todd?
Car business? I don't know. Since I was 15 years old, and I'm 54, so that's 40 years.
Frank, how long have you been doing it?
Got into the business in 2002.
So I talked to people that have been doing it as long as us or longer. And I'll say, what are the 5 core objections that you've heard since the day you got in the business? Oh, I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. Okay, tell me what do you say when they say that? Like, convince me that you're the person I should do business with when I say I need to speak to my wife. Go. And most people that have been doing it for 12 months, 12 years, 40 years will be like, They don't even know what to say. So think about that. We don't even know what to say to the 5 core objections that we hear on the sales side, but we're going to build a buy center that's completely process driven, that's all word track related, that has no additional expense. And then we're going to think it's going to work without putting in the work. Yeah. That's why buy centers don't generally work, because people say they want one, but aren't willing to set the standard and do the work to learn how.
And they're probably not process-driven dealers when it comes to other parts of their business either, is my guess. Like, they're not a fit.
Well, Todd, it's the reason I do discovery calls before I'll take somebody on.
I was going to say, David, you're pretty selective with who you'll take on as a client, right?
If I would have said yes to everybody that said they wanted to try it, I'd have 1,002 buy centers. But after just a few simple questions, this is my hobby. It's not my vocation. Like, I'm not doing this because I need the money. It is fun for me, just like coaching 13-year-old boys to play baseball. I'm not signing any big contracts to do that. I do it because I love it. I do this because I love it. So if you're not a willing participant, I'm not dragging your dead ass up the hill to see the view. You want in, you got to do the work. If you don't do the work, I'm out.
Did it take you some buys?
Kind of like having a personal trainer, right? Like, if you go to your personal trainer, but every Sunday you show up and you're hungover, you ate some pizza on Saturday night, and personal trainer's not going to stay with you very long, right?
And you're drinking one of those fruity drinks that you woke up thinking it was healthy. I'm not your trainer. What were you saying, Todd? I'm sorry.
My guess is it probably took you a little bit of time to figure that out, though. Or did you know right off the bat?
Not long. Not long, because for me, my whole life has been set up to have a flow. And if it feels like I'm fighting everything to start, then I know it's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I'd rather say no in the beginning to somebody that's not going to do the work than say yes because I need the need the money. So I'm in a really cool and fun and blessed position.
Yeah, that's the tough part, right? Because when I launched Unique Auto Sourcing, which is a division of Unique Auto Sales, like our wholesale division was thriving, but sourcing, I was trying to stand up this company that would go and help dealers source cars, and it was like pulling rocks up a hill, in a wagon. Every time I talked to a dealer about what needed to happen to source cars at auction, and that was a lesson I had to learn, that hey, I can't say yes to every dealer that wants me to go out and source inventory for them, because it's just going to be a challenge. And it was, so many times it just resulted in a little bit of brain damage. How would you, anyone who's looking to move into really just entrepreneurship in general, right? Like how do you get to a place where you're comfortable to say no and keep your business model intact?
Well, because I have the good fortune of having this be a hobby and not be a vendor. So I make that very clear going in, that if you're going to approach this like I'm your vendor, we won't even do this. Like, so you hear about the 102 buy centers, but you don't hear about all the coaching clients. I have more coaching clients than I do buy center clients.
Okay.
So when I meet a dealer, when I meet a dealer and they say, I really need help with my used car operations, I have them give me their vitals. So if you were a patient, right, you were just through that, Todd. God, I'm happy that you're through it. And you came to me, I wouldn't just say, okay, turn around, drop your pants, and jab you with a needle and say, okay, I hope that works for you. Right. So I get to know your vitals. And then I say, here's where you are. Here's where I can help you get, but it's going to be very painful getting there. So are you open to, and then I go, this, and this needs to be, have your attention and redirection. Are those 5 areas that you're willing to actually change? Because I'm not going to convince you every week to do something you agreed to do today. And if you are, let's go. And if you're not, keep doing what you've been doing. By the way, what you've been doing isn't get what you want to get. So if you want a different outcome, you're going to have to do things differently. And it's going to be a little bit painful, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. And when people say yes, I'm like, yes, I've got a yes. These people want it. And then the actions behind the yes is what I measure.
Yeah. So
I can completely, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Frank.
No, go ahead,
you, David, I can completely relate to what you're saying, because, kind of doing the same thing. From, again, my little consulting business is for me, because I want to help people really more at the end of the day. But you're right. Like, if you don't make sure that they're the right fit and they're really actually willing to make those changes, then it's just not a fit. Like, it just isn't. And I had to learn, honestly, through trial and error. When I first started becoming a consultant, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Because when you're used to being a decision maker, right, or an owner or both, which, we're all decision makers right here in this room. And you can just get things done at the end of the day because you're steering the organization. It's one thing, but when you're coming in as a coach or a consultant, it's another, or for a buy center, and there has to be a fit. I think that's super, super important. And for me, it took time for me to learn it. I didn't understand. I didn't understand that at first. I was ignorant to it. I didn't expect it, and it was challenging. So I'm glad you said that. Like, I think it's really important.
And it's why performance managers have very difficult time helping dealers convert. Because why? They have to walk that fine line. I don't have a line. Where conversations are clear, or where expectations are clear, conversations are easy, right? So if the expectations are you are here and want to be here and know that you have to do this to get there, it's very easy.
Yeah. So if a dealer's listening to this and they decide, hey, I want private party to be not just my side project, I need to make this a part of my business. What would you recommend they do just in the next 30 days? Because we know, look, prices are elevating at the auction right now. It happens every year around this time. We know that. But now's the time to really be focused on trying to get cars bought before you start to climb that vicious hill of appreciation. So in the next 30 days, what would you tell a dealer? Like, hey, these are some steps that you can take. It's not going to happen overnight. They're not going to all of a sudden start buying private party, but there probably are some things they can do that might help them. What would you recommend, David?
I would recommend you do exactly what Todd said and call me. I mean, I went through, 13,
Yeah.
18 months of broken glass with no shoes on. So I believe that anybody can do this, especially if I could figure out how to do it. Anybody could figure out to do it.
Hire a professional,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Hire a professional. Hey, Frank, if you don't mind, right? Like I'm looking at our time here, and I'd like to shift this a little bit, if it's okay with you, to NADA because we've been on now for about 40 minutes, and I know we want to keep this like under an hour, right?
Let's
We
go.
could probably talk all day, but you know, David, I'm sure that I would like to hear this. I'm sure Frank would, but really our audience, right? Like, what is David Long going to be looking at NADA? And how does David Long really manage NADA? Because a lot of people know who you are. They're going to want to talk to you, shake your hand, see what you got going on, asking you about retirement, which you're really not doing. But like, I want to know, like, what's on your radar at NADA this year, and just in general in the industry? Like, what do you, especially when it comes to terms of like technology and AI, because I think we're going to see more of the word AI than we ever have before at NADA. I'd love to hear your perspective.
I don't think anybody's really going to want to hear this answer because I'm
That's
going
why I
and
asked you, because I knew it was going to be something that nobody would expect.
well, I'm going to see my friends. I'm
Okay.
going to hang out, do a lot of hugging, connecting. This is my 42nd year. I am not going to look at technology or figure new things out. I'm going to be at Van as the COO in their booth, answering questions about buy centers. I'm speaking for Dynatron. I am just there to connect. That's it. See, not a great answer to a very, very
no. But
good
I will
question.
tell you, I will tell you this. I completely understand where you're coming from, and I was sharing this with somebody the other day. We were talking about NADA. There's a guy. I've got something going on in another business that I want to get into now, but I was explaining to him that really about all the relationships that I've made with people in the industry over the years, and a lot of it was because of NADA, right? A lot of it. Frank, I think you and I had this conversation maybe before, because last year I think was your first one, right?
It was.
Yeah. So like,
All those years in the business, and I've
I
only been to
agree.
NADA once. And
We
the
are
one
all.
time I go, Todd, snowstorm, and I don't
Yeah,
even
I
get
know.
to have the real experience. Although
So
I
like,
The other, and Frank and Todd, the other reason is I'm going to take my son, my 20-year-old son, Alex, that most people know. He's never been. I want to introduce him and sort of hand the mantle over to him to make the connections with people like you guys that he would never have met.
yeah, I want to meet him. I took my son actually when he was 20 as well. As a matter of fact, my son's 24 now, and I took him when he was 20. I think that's awesome. But you meet so many people there, and the connections that we all truly have in this business, I think, is unique, right? Like I really find it. I don't know if it's like this in other industries, but you know, there's a lot of car dealers out there, right? Like it's a big business in a way, but in my opinion, I think it's more like a small family.
No
I really
doubt.
do. And you really build great relationships with people at NADA, like for sure. And you know what? I never really, that answer you gave was awesome, right? Like I'm going to see my friends. Um, and you're right. I'm going to
And
see
it
a lot of
always
friends there
turns into
too.
more than just seeing my friends. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
let me tell you one quick story about last year. So I don't know what it was or why, but Danny with VinQ and I we didn't really, whatever. It was probably me more than him. And we agreed to meet. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not really wild about you for some reason. I want to spend time with people that I like. And I don't particularly like you for no apparent reason. Well, that was a year ago this month. He and I since then have become the best of friends. Now, I know we both have great friends, but now there's an amazing connection. We are so in alignment about so many things. I switched all my dealerships from vAuto to VinQ, not because only the friendship, but because how amazing the product is. But had I not been open-minded enough to take that meeting with him, I would have shorted myself of a friend that I really cherish today. So
Well,
that's the other reason I go.
well,
and
he is, he's brilliant, right? Like Danny he's super smart. He's got a great personality. He really is. I think he's always thinking probably 4 or 5 steps ahead. I
Yep.
Totally get it. I could see how you guys ended up actually have that connection now because you guys are both a lot alike. So
As
here you
smart
said
as
that's
he
pretty
is,
cool.
he's even a nicer,
Yeah, he
kinder
is.
human
He's a
being.
great human being. He is a great human being for sure.
I had a chance to sit with Danny at Used Car Week, and it was just a fantastic conversation. We had about a 45-minute conversation where we sat down. But the great thing, and I'm glad you said that, David, because last year at NADA was the first time I met you face to face. We had talked a couple times, but I got to meet you, give you a hug face to face, and it was one of the highlights, right? Like I met you, I got to hang out with Kramer for a while. I got to do some banter with Alex Vetter for a while. But all of that, like you can go to NADA and you can find a ton of products and come home with a ton of pamphlets that you're going to research and I want to bring to the dealership. But there is nothing more important than going there and making the connection and coming home with a handful of phone numbers of people who you can trust, you can rely on, you can pick up the phone and call and ask any question, and these people will take your call, right? Like that's the value that I found in a DA last year for my first time. So I would say for any first time person, go and sit in some of these, in some of these booths, right? Go to the van booth, meet David Long, meet, Tom Gregg, right? Like I've had some great conversations. I went to lunch. Tom's here in Chicago with me. So David, when you come to Chicago sometime, you and I go have a steak. But Tom and I went to lunch. That was the first time I met him. We met at Top Golf probably about a year ago, right before NADA. And he and I started connecting and talking, and I got to know him a little bit. So the connections that you form at NADA, just end up being ones that last a lifetime. I look forward to meeting your son. I too, my daughter's now in the business. She works for me. We both work at home, so we're joined at the hip. She's 27.
That's awesome.
And she's introduced. She's been in the business for about 2 years now. And, my goal is next year to take her to NADA to meet some of these connections as well. So in closing, man, like this was just an amazing, it's amazing that 45 minutes passed like instantly. And we can keep talking all day long, but if you haven't followed David, I don't know why you haven't. If you're not on the All Things Used Cars on every Friday morning, you're missing out. If you're not on All Things Fixed Stops on Wednesday, you're missing out. There's so many ways to get information and to have people just pour into you, because that's what this industry is really about. Is people have poured into me, and people have poured into David and Todd along the way. It's important that we continue to pour into others, especially as we start to, all of us are, we have a 5 in our age number at the front of it, or
almost so one of these guys is almost a 6.
Almost a 6.
Almost
yeah.
a 6. And
6 pack
at
for
some point,
60.
we have to pass that torch on to this next generation. And it's so important that we pour into those people so that we have, an industry that we still can look back at and say we love it and we've created a lasting legacy long after we're gone. So that's my take. David, I'll turn it over to you for some closing thoughts, and then Todd, I'll let you go ahead and just close us out here. But David,
okay.
what are some closing thoughts from you?
So since the conversation geared around buy centers, and I can just imagine, because I've been in most shoes in any dealership, how overwhelming and daunting it is. And this is not a plug necessarily, but as the new COO of Van, there's an alternative to building your own buy center. We have a managed buyers program where you don't even have to open a buy center. We'll open it for you. We'll pay the person. They'll do all the work. There's no HR complaints. There's no showing up late. There's no hangovers. If they don't get the job done, we replace them with somebody that can. So if you're looking to open a buy center, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And that's what I love about you and Todd. There's not one right answer. So if I could ever do anything to help anybody, that is where my passion lives. Feel free to reach out to me. Those are my final comments, Frank and Todd. And I really, really, to your point, 49 minutes feels like it's been 5. So thank you for your time.
Went by quick. So, a couple takeaways from here. First of all, David, I already know this because I've known you for a long time. I think you're an awesome human being, right? I really do. I think you're brilliant. I love the way you think. I respect what you're doing at this point in your life. for a lot of different reasons. And the comment that you made about NADA really, that hit me, right? Like, I'm going to see my friends. That really hit me. So, thanks for your time. We know it's pretty early for you in the morning. We record this on Saturdays, Frank and I do, and we know it's very early for you after probably a very emotional day yesterday. I'm sure it was extremely emotional when you literally were quote unquote retired. We know you're really not, but that's okay. But I mean, you left your dealership family, right? And those people, in a lot of cases, I'm going to guess, were your friends too. I know they were your employees, but they really were probably, most of them were probably your friends. So um, I wish you all the best. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. And obviously, I'm sure that we're going to keep in touch. But we so much appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Todd, thank
absolutely.
you. Frank, thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us for yet another episode of The Buy Side, where we talk about all things acquisitions and more, right? If you haven't listened to the last couple of episodes, tune in to episode 1 where we had Brian Kramer, episode 2, Glenn Lundy, and now episode 3.
That was 4, buddy. Last week was me, because last week was kind of you and I, just you and I kind of talking to each other.
Yes, so episode 4 with David Long. If you haven't listened into those episodes, go back. There's some absolutely nuggets in every one of those episodes that will help you make your dealership better. Until next time, we appreciate you. Thank you guys for tuning in to The Buy Side, and we will catch you at NADA.